It was 2:17 in the morning when the call came through. At that hour, the world feels half dead, like the air itself doesn't want to move. The radio on my dash buzzed with static, and dispatcher's voice came through, thin and trembling. Unit 12, we got a stranded vehicle near mile marker 13. No response from the driver. Mile marker 13. I remember looking at the clock, then at the stretch of black highway in front of me, and feeling something heavy sink in my stomach. Everyone in the department knew that stretch. Radios cut out there. GPS glitched. Sometimes, even headlights dimmed for no reason. The old-timer said the county rerouted the road years ago because of soil instability. But that wasn't true. It was something else. I grabbed my flashlight, took a deep breath, and said, "Copy that. Dispatch. I'll check it out." The reply came back garbled. Half words, half static. Then silence. I told myself it was just the signal, but the quiet that followed didn't feel right. It pressed against me, like something waiting on the other end of that silence. The drive took maybe 10 minutes. Nothing but empty road, fences, and that soft hum from the tires that start to sound like whispering when you've been on shift too long. The highway markers rolled by 9, 10, 11, and each time the numbers got higher, my stomach got tighter. By the time I reached 13, the fog had rolled in from the forest. It wasn't thick, not yet, but it was enough to make the world look smeared and wrong. My headlights cut through it in two pale cones, and then I saw it. A car, pulled halfway onto the shoulder, hazards blinking like dying fireflies. I slowed, parked behind it, left my engine running. Procedure. Always leave the car running at night. Always. When I stepped out, the cold hit me like a wall. That kind of damp, bone-heavy chill that doesn't belong in late summer. The air smelled like iron and wet leaves. I called out, "County Sheriff. Anyone in the vehicle?" But no one answered. The driver's side door was open just a crack. The engine was off. I could hear the tick of cooling metal and something else. A faint hum, like power lines overhead. Only there weren't any. I approached slow, hand on my flashlight, other on my sidearm. Inside, the car was empty. Driver's seat pushed back, purse on the passenger side, keys still dangling in the ignition. I reached in, turned the key halfway, and the radio came on. Nothing but static at first, then a voice. It was a woman's voice, faint, soft, like she was whispering from far away. "Don't follow me." I froze, looked around. The road behind me was empty, fog rolling in thicker now. The forest on both sides looked like it was breathing, branches swaying even though there was no wind. I turned off the radio, shut the car door, and took a step back. That was when I saw them. Footprints in the dirt, leading from the shoulder into the trees. Bare feet, small, maybe a woman's. Normally, I'd call for backup before heading off-road, but the radio was useless here. I tried anyway. Dispatch, Unit 12. I've got a possible missing person near mile marker 13. Copy. Static, then faintly, the same voice as before. "Don't follow me." My throat went dry. I stared at the radio for a long second, then shut it off. It was just interference. I told myself. That's all. The footprints went deep into the tree lean, almost glowing against the damp soil of my flashlight beam. I followed them, slow, calling out every few steps. "County Sheriff. Hello? You injured?" The forest swallowed my voice. About 50 yards and I found a shoe, a white sneaker, soaked through, then another, half buried in the mud. Past that, the ground dipped, and I could see where the footprint stopped, just ended mid-stride, like whoever made them had stepped off the earth. That was when I heard it. A low hum again, louder this time, pulsing through the ground. The kind of sound that makes your teeth ache. I turned in a circle, shining my light through the fog, and for a split second, I thought I saw someone, pale skin, dark hair, standing between the trees. But when I blinked, she was gone. I called out again. Nothing. Something in me wanted to go further, to keep searching. But the rational part of my brain, the part that's seen too many late-night wrecks and bad endings, said stop. I started back toward the road. The forest seemed thicker than before. My light kept dimming, flickering like the batteries were dying, though I'd changed them that morning. When I finally stepped out of the trees, I felt relief like I hadn't in years. My patrol car's lights cut through the fog, and I walked fast toward it, trying not to look at the stranded vehicle. But I had to pass it again, and that's when I saw something I know I didn't see before. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. A woman, head tilted toward the window, long dark hair hiding her face. I stopped dead. "Ma'am." I called out. No movement. I took one step closer. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Her hand twitched. Slowly, she turned her head toward me. The motion was wrong, like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. When she faced me fully, I realized I couldn't see her eyes, just darkness where they should have been. Then my radio came alive again, crackling so loud it made me jump. "Unit 12, it said, in her voice. "Don't follow me." I stumbled back, pulling my light up, but the car was empty again, just an open door, swinging in the wind. I got back in my cruiser, slammed the locks, and started the engine. The clock read 2:34 a.m. Somehow, I'd been out there nearly 20 minutes, but it felt longer, like hours. I radioed dispatch again once I was a few miles out, and this time it went through fine. A different voice answered, my usual night dispatcher, calm and clear. "Unit 12, go ahead." I hesitated. "Yeah." I responded to a stranded vehicle at mile marker 13. "No one on scene, car abandoned. I'll have it towed in the morning." "Copy that," she said. "Mile marker what?" 13. Static. Then she came back, voice shaky. "Sheriff, we don't have a mile marker 13 on that stretch. Closest one is 12. I didn't argue, just drove. The highway looked normal again, fog gone, air lighter. But as I passed the next marker, I glanced at it. 13. The same number, faded but there. When I got home that morning, I wrote the report like usual, but I couldn't bring myself to file it. Something about that call felt unfinished. Every now and then, when I'm driving that same road, my radio cuts out. Just static. And if I listen close, really close, I can still hear her voice through it. Soft, distant, "Don't follow me." It was just after 3 a.m. when I saw her. The fog had gotten worse. Thicker, heavier, like the whole night was sinking under it. My headlights could barely cut 10 feet ahead. The world beyond that was just gray static. I remember my fingers tapping on the steering wheel. The hum of the radio still full of soft static, like someone whispering behind a wall. And then she appeared, a shape in the middle of the road. I hit the brakes hard. Tires screamed against the asphalt, and the cruiser fishtailed before stopping just a few feet away from her. She didn't flinch, didn't move at all. She just stood there, thin, soaked with skin, hair plastered to her face. Her white shirt clung to her like she'd walked through a river. For a moment, I didn't move either. It was like time froze right there in the beams of my headlights. The only sound was the soft ticking of the engine cooling and the rain dripping off the roof. I got out slowly, hand resting near my holster, not because she looked dangerous, but because I didn't know what else to do. "Ma'am," I called out. "You all right?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were wide, pale in the light. She blinked a few times, like she was trying to focus on me, but couldn't quite see me. "Ma'am," I said again, taking a careful step forward. "Are you hurt?" Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then suddenly, she let out a small, shaking breath and whispered, "He's gone." The voice barely made it over the hum of the engine. I stopped where I was. "Who's gone?" "My boyfriend," she said, voice trembling. He went into the trees." She turned slightly, pointing toward the woods that ran along the side of the road, the same stretch I'd just come from. "He said he saw something in there," she continued, eyes darting between the trees. "A light. I told him not to go, but he..." Her voice cracked. He wouldn't listen. I looked toward the tree line. It was solid black, fog curling between the trunks. No movement, no sound. Just the hum, always that low, impossible hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Okay," I said gently. What's your name? She hesitated. Hannah. All right, Hannah. I'm Sheriff Daniels. We're going to get you warmed up. Okay? You're freezing. She didn't move, just kept staring into the woods. He's in there, she whispered. I glanced back toward my cruiser. Radio still useless. The static had turned into a low hiss, almost like breathing. Where's your car? I asked. Her eyes flicked toward the ditch, and I saw it. A silver sedan, half buried in mud, headlights dim. I walked over to check it. The front bumper was torn, maybe from hitting a post or running off the shoulder. The passenger door was wide open, the inside soaked. Was he driving? I asked. She nodded. We were coming from a party. Took the wrong turn. He said his GPS stopped working. Then we saw something. Her voice dropped, barely audible. It looked like a person, standing right in the middle of the road. He swerved, hit the ditch. When we got out, it was gone. Then he saw the light in the trees. Said he thought someone needed help. I frowned, and then he just walked in. She nodded again, eyes still fixed on the tree line. How long ago was that? She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, I don't know, maybe an hour? An hour. That didn't make sense. She was soaked through, but it hadn't rained in hours. And her skin, pale, clammy, like she'd been standing there much longer than that. All right, I said quietly. Let's get you in the car. I'll take a look inside the woods once you're safe. But as I reached for her arm, she jerked back. No, she said. Don't go in there. The way she said it. So sharp, so certain, it made my stomach twist. Why not? Her eyes flicked toward the trees again. Because it's not the same in there. I stared at her. What do you mean? She shook her head, shivering harder. It's not the same forest. He went in and the sound changed. Everything went quiet, and then the humming started. There was again, the hum, the one I'd felt under my boots earlier. I took a step back, scanning the tree line again. You heard it too? She nodded slowly. It's like it's under the ground, she whispered, like the earth's breathing. For a long moment, neither of us spoke, just the fog rolling, the faint hiss of the radio behind me. Then something flickered between the trees. A faint glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Hannah gasped and clutched my sleeve. There, do you see it? I did. It was about 50 yards and dim, white, floating just above the ground. It's him, she whispered, but I wasn't so sure. I'd seen headlights, flashlights, all kinds of tricks of light and fog before, but this wasn't that. It moved too slow, too deliberate. I turned back toward her. Stay here, I said. No, please. She grabbed my arm. Her fingers were ice cold. Don't go in. That's not him anymore. Her words sent a shiver through me. What do you mean? She looked like she wanted to say more, but something stopped her. She just stared past me into the fog. Then she whispered, he's calling me. And before I could react, she broke free. She ran straight toward the trees, bare feet slapping against the wet asphalt. Hannah! I shouted, sprinting after her. My boot slipped on the wet road. As I reached the edge of the woods, she vanished into the fog. I followed a few steps in, flashlight cutting narrow beams through the dark. Hannah! Stop! You'll get hurt. The hum rose again, deep and heavy. My flashlight flickered. Somewhere ahead, I heard her voice, thin, echoing wrong. He's here. I moved closer, heart pounding, scanning every shadow. But the deeper I went, the quieter the forest became. No crickets, no wind, just that sound, the hum, pressing against my skull. Then I saw it again. The light, closer now, hovering just past the trees. It wasn't steady. It pulsed like it was breathing. Hannah! No answer. The hum grew louder, vibrating through my teeth. I tried to step closer, but my legs felt heavy, like the ground itself was pulling at me. And then I heard it. A man's voice, faint, just beyond the light. Help me. I froze. It was coming from the same direction she ran. Who's there? I shouted. Help me, it said again, softer this time. I took one step forward, and the hum stopped. just stopped. The sudden silence was worse. Total, suffocating silence. Then, from the darkness, something moved. It wasn't Hannah. It was taller, its shape blurred by fog. It swayed like it was floating, edges rippling like smoke. The light behind it flickered once, then went out. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a root. My flashlight dimmed again, then died completely. When I turned it back on, I was alone. No figure, no light, no sound, just a forest, still and cold. I called for Hannah until my voice broke, but there was nothing, only my echo coming back, distorted, like it wasn't mine anymore. Eventually, I found my way back to the road. My cruiser's headlights still cut through the fog, the car engine idling like nothing happened. Her sedan was gone, not just moved, gone. No tire tracks, no dents in the mud where it had been. I searched the area twice, even marked where I thought it had been, but there was nothing but wet grass and fog. When I got back in my car, I tried the radio again. Static, then faintly a voice. Unit 12. I froze. It was a woman's voice. Unit 12. It said again, softer. He's gone. Then it cut out. I sat there a long time before starting the engine. The clock said 4:07 a.m. As I pulled away, the fog began to thin. I looked in the rearview mirror one last time, and for just a second, I saw her again, standing in the middle of the road, drenched, still, the same white shirt, glowing faintly in the headlights. Then the road curved, and she was gone. I haven't been able to stop thinking about her since. Every time I drive past that stretch, I look into the fog and swear I see her there, waiting, watching, her lips moving with that same broken whisper. He's gone. The next morning, I told myself I'd imagine half of it. That fatigue, fog, and a long shift had tangled my head. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The report I filed said I'd found an abandoned vehicle and a distressed witness who fled into the woods. Nothing about the lights. Nothing about the voice on the radio. Nothing about how the girl's car had vanished. I told myself it wasn't lying. It was protecting my badge. By sundown, I was back out there. The sun had gone down behind the pines, and the fog was already creeping in again. I parked at the same stretch near mile marker 13 and cut the engine. The quiet hit like a wall. Not the kind of peaceful quiet you find in small towns, but that hollow, thick kind. The kind that swallows every sound before it reaches your ears. I stepped out, boots crunching on damp gravel, flashlight in hand. The forest stood ahead, black and endless. Every instinct told me to leave it alone. But I couldn't. That girl's face, the way she said he's gone, it felt unfinished. I started down the path where her footprints had gone the night before. The air smelled wet, heavy with pine and rot. Every breath felt thick enough to chew. About 50 yards and the trees grew closer together. My light cut through a narrow tunnel of branches, catching fog like dust in a sunbeam. The sound of my steps echoed strangely, like the forest was mimicking me a half second late. Then behind me, a twig snapped. I spun around, light shaking in my hand. Nothing, just trees. Hello, I called. My own voice came back to me. Same word, same tone, but it didn't sound right. It was softer, slower. Hello. I froze. The forest went still again. I waited, listening hard, but all I heard was that faint hum under the ground. Low, steady, almost like a generator buried deep beneath the soil. I forced myself to keep walking. You're losing it, I muttered under my breath. A few steps later, the sound of water reached me. I followed it through a break in the trees and came out by a narrow creek. It was barely a few feet wide, cutting through mud and moss, but the current sounded strange. It wasn't random. It had a rhythm, like it was repeating the same pattern again and again. I crouched by the water, watching it slide over stones. The same leaves floated by every few seconds, the same shapes, the same turns, like the creek itself was stuck. That's when I heard something else. Footsteps, slow, careful, from the direction I came. Hannah, I called out. No answer. I stood, shined the light toward the path. The beam hit fog and shadows, nothing else. Then I heard it again, closer this time. Footsteps, wet, soft. Who's there? I shouted. This time, the echo didn't wait. Who's there? It wasn't my voice. It came from deeper in the woods. A woman's voice. Calm, flat. My skin prickled. Hannah. The same voice answered from the dark. Hannah. I gripped the flashlight, so tight my knuckles ached. If you can hear me, I'm here to help you. Stay where you are. A pause. Then, in the exact same tone, if you can hear me, I'm here to help you. Stay where you are. Something inside me twisted cold. It wasn't repeating after me. It was with me, every word at the same time, like it already knew what I was going to say. I shut my mouth and backed up a few steps. The forest had started to hum again, louder now. The ground vibrated faintly beneath my boots. My flashlight flickered once, twice. Then I saw a movement between the trees. A figure, pale still, standing maybe 20 feet ahead. The beam of light hit her face, and for a heartbeat, I thought it was Hannah. But something was off. Her head was tilted too far, her arms hanging loose at her sides. Her clothes looked soaked, dark patches spreading like ink. I swallowed hard. Hannah! Her mouth opened, but what came out wasn't sound. It was that low hum, spilling out of her like breath. I took a step back. The hum deepened, and she tilted her head further, bones in her neck cracking softly. Then she whispered, my own voice perfect down to rasp, Hannah? I dropped the flashlight. It hit the dirt road, and the beam spun wild to the fog. When I picked it up again, she was gone. Just the forest, just the sound. I forced myself to breathe, to think. I needed to get out. I turned toward the direction of my car and started walking fast. Every few steps, I checked behind me. The hum followed. So did the echo of my footsteps. Each sound repeated, perfectly delayed, like the forest was a recording playing itself over and over. My breathing, my heartbeat, my boots, all trapped in a loop. By the time I saw the faint glow of my cruiser's headlights through the trees, I was shaking. I broke into a run. Branches scraped my arms, mud pulling at my boots. The forest didn't feel right. It felt alive. When I stumbled out onto the road, I nearly fell to my knees. The air was lighter, quieter. But as I caught my breath, something made me stop cold. The headlights weren't mine. A second patrol car sat across the road, lights on, engine idling. I didn't remember calling for backup. Through the windshield, I saw a movement, a figure in the driver's seat. I took a step closer. My voice came out hoarse. Hey, you from county? The window rolled down, and I saw myself. Same uniform, same badge, same face. The other me looked at me calmly, eyes dark and hollow. He spoke, but his voice was faint, drowned beneath the static hum that never stopped. Don't follow her. Then the window rolled back up. The headlights flickered, and the car was gone. No engine, no tire marks, just fog rolling where it had been. I stood there, shaking, flashlight trembling in my hand. The forest behind me had gone silent again, the hum fading like a dying heartbeat. When I finally got back to my cruiser, the radio clicked to life. Static at first, then that same soft voice. Unit 12, it whispered, you're still in the woods. I turned it off and drove. Didn't look in the mirrors. Didn't stop until I saw town lights. But even now, when I drive past that mile marker, my radio buzzes for a second, just long enough to hear it again, my own voice calm and steady, whispering through the static. You're still in the woods. By the time the first hints of daylight broke through the trees, I was still parked on the shoulder of that road, engine running, hands gripping the wheels so hard my knuckles ached. I hadn't moved since the thing in the forest. The copy of me, the woman's voice, the hum that rattled the ground like something was breathing beneath it. The fog had thinned some, but the world still looked pale and hollow, drained of color. My headlights were dim against the mist, the engine rumbling low like it was afraid to be loud. I told myself I just needed to wait until morning, wait for the sun, call in backup, let someone else walk into that place. But the sun didn't look right either. It didn't rise. It just sat there behind the fog, a pale white disk like a coin held behind paper. The clock on the dash said 6:42 a.m., then 6:42 again, then again. I blinked, leaned forward, tapped the glass. The seconds weren't moving. Not now. I muttered, not again. I turned the ignition off, then on. The clock flickered back to life. Still 6:42. Static filled the radio, soft at first, then sharp. Unit 12, my stomach tightened. It was my own voice again. Unit 12, come in. I didn't answer. I just sat there, staring at the radio, listening to myself call for me. Respond, please. You got a report of a stranded vehicle near mile marker 13. The same words. The same calm tone I'd used hours ago. The sound faded into static, and through the windshield, I saw it. Flashing lights, faint at first, then growing brighter as they cut through fog. A patrol car coming from the other direction. I stepped out of mine, boots sinking into the wet shoulder. My breath hung white in the cold air. The cruiser slowed, then stopped a few yards away. The driver's side door opened, and a man stepped out. I froze. He wore my uniform, my badge, my face. Morning, he said, voice steady. I didn't answer. Couldn't. He looked at me like we were co-workers meeting for a shift change. Got a call about a stranded vehicle out here. You the one who made it. I swallowed. My mouth was dry. No, I got the same call. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Yeah, radio's been acting up, huh? He glanced around, eyes scanning the fog. Then he looked at me again and frowned. You all right, Sheriff? You look like you've been through hell. I stared at him. He had a small scar just under his right eye, the same one I got from a bar fight 20 years ago. The same shape, same color. Even the same little twitch in his left cheek when he blinked. What time is it? I asked. He looked down at his wristwatch. 6:42. My chest tightened. It's been 6:42 for hours. He gave a small chuckle. You sure about that? Pretty damn sure. The smile faded. He looked back toward the woods. You hear it? The humming. He nodded. Yeah, I've been hearing it since I turned off the highway. Thought it was my car. I didn't know what to say. The air between us felt too still, too thick. Then his radio crackled. Unit 12, report in. We both reached for our shoulders at the same time. The same call, the same words. He frowned. That's weird. You heard that. I nodded. He tapped his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. We're already on scene. Static. Then the voice came again. Unit 12, you're already on scene. He looked up at me. What the hell's going on? I didn't have an answer. He walked past me toward the shoulder where Hannah's car had been. Where's the vehicle? He asked. Gone, I said quietly. He stopped, looked at me. Gone how? Just gone. He crouched near the dirt, running a gloved hand over the ground. No tracks, he murmured. No drag marks. Nothing. Then he stood, brushing off his hands. You sure you didn't move it? I glared at him. You calling me a liar? He didn't flinch. I'm just saying, Sheriff. Something's not right here. I took a slow step toward him. What did you just call me? Sheriff. But that's me. He tilted his head, confused. No, I'm Sheriff Daniels. The world tilted sideways. For a second, I thought I'd pass out. Say that again. I said I'm Sheriff Daniels. Been with the county 32 years. You must be, he hesitated. You must be my deputy. The way he said it, calm, matter of fact, made something deep in my chest twist tight. I shook my head. No, you got it backward. He smiled. Not kindly. No, I don't think so. We stood there for what felt like minutes, staring each other down while the fog crept thicker around our legs. The hum was back again, steady, pulsing, like the forest was breathing between us. He finally broke the silence. Tell you what, he said. I'll check the woods. You stay here. If you see the girl, call it in. I already went in there, I said. He frowned. You did? I nodded. Didn't end well. He studied me for a long time, then said softly, "You shouldn't have done that." Before I could ask what he meant, he turned and walked toward the tree line. The fog swallowed him whole. I waited. 1 minute, 2, 5. Then I heard it. His voice faint through the mist. "Hello." The same word I'd shouted into the trees hours before. Then again, "Hello." The hum rose, shaking the ground beneath my boots. And then, just like before, the forest echoed him. "Hello," it said back. I took a step forward, flashlight trembling in my hand. "Hey, you okay?" The echo came again, my own voice this time. "Hey, you okay?" Something about the tone made me stop. The fog ahead shifted. 2 figures stepped out of the tree line, both of them me. One wore a clean uniform, the other mud-stained, face pale, eyes dark. The second one turned toward me, and for a moment I thought it was a mirror until he spoke. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I'm already here," I whispered. He smiled. "No, you still are." Behind him, the trees pulsed with that soft light again, the same pale glow I'd seen when Hannah disappeared. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my teeth. The first one, my double with the clean uniform, turned to the other and said, "You get her?" The second shook his head. "She's gone." They both turned toward me then, faces blank, expressions calm like this was routine. I took a step back. My boot hit gravel. The hum reached a peak pitch, so high it felt like it was slicing through my head. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes, the road was empty. My cruiser sat idling. No other cars. No fog. No doubles. The sky was bright now, morning, real morning. Birds were chirping, the hum gone. For a second, I thought maybe it had ended. Maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. Then I noticed the clock on the dash. 6:42. Still, the radio clicked softly. "Unit 12, report in." My own voice again. Calm. Detached. I reached for the ignition to shut everything off, but the key wouldn't move. It was locked in place. Engine running even though it shouldn't have been. I tried the door handle next. It didn't budge. Then the radio crackled one more time. "Unit 12, the voice said. "Do you copy?" It sounded closer now. Inside the car, almost behind me, I turned slowly toward the rearview mirror and saw headlights behind me. Another cruiser, parked inches from my bumper. Through the glare, I could just make out a figure in the driver's seat. Same face, same uniform. He lifted the radio to his mouth and said, "Copy." Then both our radios spoke at once, voices overlapping. "Unit 12, you're still on scene." I slammed my fist against the door, yelling, "Let me out!" The man in the other car didn't move. He just stared back, eyes lifeless, head tilted slightly, like he was listening for something I couldn't hear. Then in perfect sync, both engines revved. The hum started again, deeper this time, louder. I covered my ears, shouting, but the sound filled everything. The car, the air, the space inside my head. It was everywhere, endless, alive, and then silence. I don't remember what happened after that. When I came to, the road was empty. My car was parked exactly where it had been the first night. No fog, no second cruiser. But the clock still said 6:42. And when I touched the radio, it whispered back to me, just above the static. My own voice, quiet and certain, "You can't leave the road." I tried to drive anyway. Shifted into gear, pressed the gas. The wheels spun but didn't move. The engine screamed, but the car stayed perfectly still. I pressed harder. Nothing. The road stretched endlessly ahead. The horizon washed in pale morning light that never brightened. The hum started again, faint but steady, pulsing under the asphalt. I sat there until the sky turned white, until the sound felt like my heartbeat. And now I understand. I never left mile marker 13. I don't think anyone ever does. It started like any other night shift. Coffee gone lukewarm, dust on the dashboard, that faint hum from the patrol car's radio that never quite shuts up. It was 11:47 p.m. when I rolled out of the station lot. Lights off, tires crunching over gravel. I've been with the department 8 years. Long enough to know the night doesn't really start until after midnight. That's when the quiet roads start talking. I was working County Route 19, 30 miles of nothing but trees, old barns, and one gas station that shuts its lights at 9. Most deputies hate this stretch. Too empty, too dark. But I don't mind it. Feels like the world ends out there. And sometimes that's peaceful. The radio crackled softly, background static filling the silence. I reached over, adjusted the dial, and said, Unit 5, starting shift. No answer. I frowned. Dispatch, Unit 5 checking in. Still nothing. Just that hum again, low and steady, like a heartbeat hiding under the noise. Guess we're doing it the quiet way. I muttered and pulled onto the main road. The night air was heavy, wet, the kind that makes the headlights look like they're swimming through fog, even when there isn't any. I drove a few miles, checked the speed traps, and was about to call it routine when the radio clicked. Soft but clear, Unit 5, copy. I froze. That voice, it was calm, slightly tired, with that scratchy smoker's rasp I hadn't heard in years. Unit 5, this is dispatch. Go ahead. For a second, I couldn't move. I just stared at the radio. Dispatch, say again? Go ahead, deputy. My throat tightened. Who is this? You know who this is. The voice said. It was Mary. Mary Collins, our old dispatcher. Retired 10 years ago after her husband died. She used to bring cookies to the station, knew everyone's birthday by heart. She was warm, motherly, but she wasn't here. She couldn't be. Mary, I whispered. That's right, she said, gentle as ever. How's the road tonight? I stared at the radio, feeling my pulse thud in my neck. Mary, how are you talking to me right now? Same way I always did, she replied, as if nothing was strange. You still keeping that thermos of coffee in your front seat? My chest went cold. I looked down at the dented silver thermos, sitting in the cup holder. She used to tease me about it all the time. Mary, listen to me. You retired. Years ago. You moved to Clearwater. Silence. Then, that's right. Clearwater's nice this time of year. Then how are you on this frequency? Because you're not on your usual one. Her tone had changed. Still calm, but flat. I turned the dial back to our standard frequency, 10 to 12. Static, then a soft pop. I turned it again. Same thing. When I switched back, her voice returned immediately. Stay on this one, deputy. The way she said it didn't sound like a suggestion. Mary, I said slowly. Where you calling from? A pause. Long enough to hear the faint hiss of breathing through the speaker. From the desk, she said at last. Where else? I glanced at the dashboard clock. Midnight sharp. Every instinct told me to shut the radio off. But I didn't. I couldn't. You on Route 19? She asked. Yeah. Good. Watch for mile marker 12. There's a car parked on the shoulder. I blinked. Who called it in? Nobody did. But you'll see it. Blue sedan. Lights off. Been there a while. I pressed the mic button, but my hand was trembling. All right, I'll check it out. Copy that, she said softly. Be careful, honey. That last word. It used to make us smile when she said it, but hearing it now through static made my skin crawl. I drove slow, tires humming against the cracked asphalt. The trees leaned over the road like they were watching. At mile marker 11, I started scanning the shoulder. Nothing yet, just black trees, blacker sky. Then I saw it, a faint shape on the right side. Headlights glinting off metal. A car, blue sedan. Exactly like she said. I slowed, pulled behind it, and hit the spotlight. Empty. Driver's door closed, windows up, no movement inside. The plates were covered in dust. Looked like it had been there a few days. Dispatch, this is Unit 5. I said into the mic, I've got visual on that sedan. No driver, no occupants. Looks abandoned. No reply. Mary, you copy. Static. Then, check the trunk. My hand froze midair. Why? Just check it, she said, her voice firmer now. Please. Something in her tone. Something desperate pushed me out of the car. The air outside was colder than it should have been. No wind, no crickets, just stillness. I walked around the sedan, boots crunching gravel. The car smelled faintly of mildew and rust. The trunk had no lock, just one of those push latch types. I pressed it, and it popped open with a dull click. Empty, except for a radio. Not a car radio. A Police One, handheld, cracked, old as hell. The kind we stopped using a decade ago. It was switched on, and from it, I heard breathing. Slow, deep, then faintly. Unit 5 copy. I stumbled back, heart racing. That was my own voice. Mary, I said into my shoulder mic, "What the hell is this?" She answered immediately, her tone calm again. "Don't touch it, deputy. Leave it be. What's going on? Just finish your shift. Don't stop again until you reach the station." Her voice softened, almost a whisper now. "And don't answer any more calls tonight." Then static. I climbed back into my cruiser, shaking. The old radio in the trunk was still transmitting faint breathing sounds, even after I shut my door. I drove off, faster than I should have, glancing in the rear view every few seconds. For the rest of the night, my police radio stayed silent. No chatter, no check-ins. Just that dull hum under the static. When I got back to the station at dawn, I ran inside, straight to the comms room. "Hey, who was on dispatch last night?" I asked. The morning shift officer looked up from his coffee. "No one. System's been down since 11. You were on solo coverage." My stomach dropped. "No, I spoke to someone." She called herself Mary. He blinked. "Mary Collins? She's been retired 10 years. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked back to my cruiser. The air inside smelled different, like cigarette smoke and peppermint gum. Mary used to chew that stuff all the time. The radio was silent, but the dial had changed. The digital screen glowed faint blue, showing a single number, 1212, her old dispatch frequency. I turned the knob to switch it off. It wouldn't move. The hum started again, low and steady, pulsing beneath the static like something breathing behind the glass. And then her voice came back, soft, familiar, almost kind. "Long shift tonight. Honey," the speaker hissed, then went dead. But when I looked at the radio again, I saw my reflection in the dark screen, eyes wide, face pale. And behind me, for just a second, someone sitting in the passenger seat, a shadow wearing a dispatcher's headset, smiling. I didn't sleep that morning. I sat in my apartment, curtains drawn, staring at my police radio on the table. It was off. At least, I thought it was, but I could still hear that faint hum if I got too close, like it was remembering something. I told myself I'd imagined it all. Maybe the midnight air got to me. Maybe exhaustion made my brain turn static into voices. But the thing that kept looping in my head wasn't the sound. It was what she said. "Don't answer any more calls tonight." Mary Collins had been dead for 5 years. I found that out after 2 hours of digging through old county records. Heart attack. At home. They'd buried her in Clearwater, near her husband. So, if she was dead, who the hell had talked to me on that radio? By afternoon, I drove to the comms office at the edge of town. Small cinder block building. The same one Mary used to work in. The door stuck when I opened it. Dust covered everything. I could smell mildew and old paper. The new tech guy, Wes, sat behind a desk littered with open circuit boards. He looked up, blinking behind thick glasses. "Deputy Hall, right? What brings you here?" "Need you to check something for me?" I said, setting the radio down on the desk. "It's been acting strange." He leaned in, frowning. "That's an old model. Surprised it's still running." "Yeah, well, it's been picking up something it shouldn't." "What kind of something?" I hesitated. Voices. Old frequencies. He nodded like he'd heard that before. Could be cross interference from a nearby tower. There's an abandoned one a few miles north. High Ridge Tower. We used to get ghost channels off that thing before they shut it down. "How long's it been off?" "Over a decade. Power grid pulled in 2012. Nothing should be coming out of it. Where exactly is it? He scribbled a rough map on a sticky note and handed it to me. You really go out there? Yeah, I said quietly. I think I have to. The road to High Ridge Tower was nothing more than a cracked strip of asphalt cutting through overgrown fields. The closer I got, the worse the reception on my car radio became. Just faint whispers of static, rising and falling like breathing. When I crested the hill, I saw it. A rusted skeleton of metal, standing crooked against the pale afternoon sky. The chain-link fence around it had collapsed in places, eaten away by vines and time. The sign on the gate said, "Property of County Communications. Power terminated. Danger. High voltage." High voltage, my ass. There were no lines left. Still, I parked a few yards back. My boot sank into wet grass as I walked toward the gate. The closer I got, the more I could hear something faint, like a whisper under the wind. It wasn't words. Not yet, just that familiar hum, pulsing low and steady. I slipped through the broken section of fence and stepped into the clearing beneath the tower. The air was different there, still heavy, like the sound itself was pressing against me. The tower stretched maybe 200 feet high, skeletal and rusted, cables dangling like veins. At the base was a small shack, half collapsed, door hanging open. I pushed it gently. Hinges groaned. Inside, the walls were lined with dead equipment. Switchboards, broken radios, empty shelves. Dust everywhere. A bird's nest in the corner. But on one table, something still hummed. A small transmitter, gray, dented, its indicator light blinking faintly red. It shouldn't have had power. I leaned close. The hum grew louder. Then I heard it. Her voice. Unit 5. My breath caught. Unit 5, you out there? It was Mary again. The same calm, low tone. Mary, I said, stepping closer. Mary, I'm here. The transmitter crackled. Didn't I tell you not to answer calls? I froze. What is this? How are you? How is this thing even on? You came back to work early tonight, she said softly. You always do that when you're upset. Mary, I said, my voice shaking. You died in clear water. Silence. Then, that's right, but you still kept the same thermos, didn't you? I swallowed hard. My hand brushed against my belt. I still had the damn thermos in the cruiser. This isn't funny. No, honey, it's not. You should have left the road alone. The one where the car was parked. I stepped back, heart hammering. How you know about that? The red light blinked faster, because I was the one who called it in. Something buzzed overhead, metal vibrating, faint static building in the air. I looked up, and the top of the tower was trembling slightly, like something alive was moving along the beams. Who are you? I demanded. The voice on the transmitter wavered, crackling, doubling over itself. I told you, honey, it's Mary. But it wasn't just her voice anymore. It layered, echoing, overlapping itself. Mary speaking a half second behind herself, like two recordings trying to play at once. Mary, Mary, Mary. The hum in the air deepened into something that felt like it was inside my ribs. I turned to leave, but the doorway was darker now. The sunlight outside had dimmed, the air thick and gray. From the corner of the shack, a soft voice whispered, "Stay, deputy." I spun around. The corner was empty, except for an old wooden chair. And sitting in that chair was a headset, the kind dispatchers used. I don't know why, but I reached for it. The moment my fingers brushed the metal, a burst of static hit my ears, loud, violent. Unit 5, do you copy? The voice screamed to the headset, overlapping into itself, a dozen Marys talking at once. I ripped it off and stumbled backward. The hum outside the shack had changed. It was rising in pitch, pulsing in waves. The transmitter light turned from red to white, flickering so fast it looked alive. Then the voice came through again, quiet now, almost whispering. You shouldn't have found me. Something popped overhead. Sparks. I looked up just in time to see one of the tower lights flicker on. Then another. One by one, from base to tip, the old rusted tower came alive. Each light buzzing, glowing faint yellow. No power lines. No generators. Nothing connected. but it was alive. The hum grew louder, vibrating the ground under my boots. Through the noise, I could just make out words forming in the static. Broken pieces of transmission, fragments of names called signs. Unit 12, dispatched to county, negative on location. Repeat, we lost contact. Mary Collins signing off. Then under all of it, one voice, clear and cold. You're next. Every instinct in me screamed to run. I bolted from the shack, crashing through the brush toward the cruiser. The moment I crossed the fence line, the humming stopped. I turned back. The tower was dark again, lifeless. No light, no sound, just rust and silence. By the time I reached town, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I went straight to the station and found Wes. Tell me something, I said, setting the radio on his desk. That tower, High Ridge, was it ever used for dispatch? He blinked. Not really. It was built as a backup relay. Only used once or twice. Why? When was the last time? He clicked through some files, then frowned. Says here, last transmission was June 8, 2012. My heart dropped. June 8th? Yeah. He scrolled further. Right before the lightning strike that fried the line. Funny coincidence. It was logged under dispatcher IDM, Collins. I stared at him. Mary. Yeah, he said slowly. Mary Collins. She was the one working that night. I didn't say anything, just turned and walked out. Outside, the sky was deep blue, clouds gathering over the horizon. I climbed into my cruiser, closed the door, and just sat there. The dashboard radio clicked softly, like something turning itself on. Unit 5, a familiar voice whispered through static. You still out there? I didn't answer, but the hum was already starting again, quiet, steady, deep beneath the speaker. And when I looked in the rear-view mirror, I saw the faint outline of the tower, miles away, lights flickering one by one up its spine, like it was calling me back. The next night, I didn't want to go in. I sat in my cruiser outside the station for almost half an hour, headlights off, watching the moss tap against the windshield. The town was asleep, every house dark, every street empty. I kept telling myself I should just go home, get some rest. But the uniform was already on me, the badge already heavy on my chest. And the radio, well, the radio was humming again. It wasn't loud, just soft enough that I could feel behind my ribs. A rhythm that didn't match my heartbeat. When I turned the dial, it stopped. But as soon as I let go, it started again. I exhaled. All right, I muttered, let's get this over with. 11:59 p.m. That same time the last two nights. I pulled onto County Route 19, and for a moment, everything looked normal. Then the radio clicked. Hey there, Peanut. My hands froze on the wheel. Nobody had called me that in over 20 years. When I was a kid, my mom's best friend, Mary Collins, used to watch me after school. I was small for my age, round-cheeked, always chewing sunflower seeds. So she called me Peanut. But that was long before I ever joined the department. Long before the night she died. Mary, I whispered. You still remember, she said, her tone light, cheerful, almost playful. Thought maybe you'd forgotten me. I haven't forgotten, I said quietly. But I don't understand how this is happening. Oh, Peanut, she sighed. You never did like mysteries. I gripped the wheel tighter. Where are you calling from? From work, of course, she said. You're out late again. Route 19, right? Yeah. Always Route 19. You liked it better when it was quieter. Her voice softened. You used to bring me coffee back then. Remember that? You'd sneak into dispatch after your shift and talk about how the nights felt too long. My throat went dry. Mary, you're dead? She interrupted. Yes, I suppose I am. But we never really stop working, do we? Not people like us. I swallowed hard, glanced at the clock. 12 a.m. The numbers didn't change. Mary, I said carefully, are you trying to tell me something? You missed a call earlier. She said, her tone suddenly flat. A disturbance out at the Ridge Motel. I didn't get that call. You did, she insisted. Room 3. Man with a gun. Says he's seeing someone in the mirror that isn't him. I checked my notepad. No record, no printout. Dispatch never sent that out. I just did, she said calmly. You'd better go, Peanut. He's waiting. Mary, there's no Ridge Motel anymore. It burned down in 2018. The silence on the line stretched long enough for me to hear the hum come back. Deeper, pulsing. Then she whispered, that's right. You were there that night too, weren't you? A cold chill crept up my neck. I was there. Not when it burned, but the night before. I'd written a trespassing ticket for a couple staying there. The woman's name was Hannah. The same name as the girl who vanished last month out near mile marker 13. I felt dizzy. Mary, how do you know that? Because I remember everything you forget. Her voice dropped lower, softer. I know the calls you don't write down. The ones you pretend didn't happen. What calls? I asked. The radio hissed. Static layered with whispering. Like 100 small voices trying to speak at once. Then through the noise complaint. August 4th, 2015. Family on Clearbrook Lane. You remember that one? I shook my head. No, you do, she said almost sadly. Father called in. Said someone was knocking at his door every night. You arrived at 2:03 a.m. Talked to him for 15 minutes. He opened the door for you. I felt my stomach twist. There's no Clearbrook Lane in this county. There was. The hum deepened again, vibrating through the steering column. Mary, you need to stop. You went inside? Peanut. My breath caught. What? You went inside, but you didn't come back out. The words hit like a punch. I pulled the car over, turned off the engine. The world outside was still. No wind, no insects. Just me and the whispering radio. Mary, I said softly, what do you mean by that? You never came back out of that house. Her tone had changed completely now. The warmth was gone. It was the voice of someone reciting something they'd said too many times before. I sat there, frozen, eyes on the dark road ahead. Then how am I here? Static filled the car. Then, faintly, she chuckled. That's what they all ask, Peanut. I swallowed hard, hand trembling as I reached for the ignition. You're not real. Maybe not, but that doesn't make you real either. The lights on the dash flickered. For a moment, the reflection in the windshield didn't match my movements, like I'd blinked but the man in the glass hadn't. Mary, I said through gritted teeth, what do you want from me? The radio crackled once, and her voice came back gentle again, like a lullaby. Just company. The shift gets lonely, you know? Then, softly, you should check your back seat, Peanut. My heart stopped. Slowly, I turned. Empty. No one there. When I looked forward again, the radio light was pulsing, one blink for every word. Don't look away this time. Then the clock ticked, just once, and changed from 12 to 11:47 p.m., the exact time I'd started my shift. What the hell? I whispered. The radio came alive again. Unit 5, copy? We got a stranded vehicle near mile marker 13. My blood went cold. It was my voice. My own call from 2 nights ago. Mary, stop it. You're on scene, right? The voice doubled again. My voice, hers, blending. You're on scene, right? The hum turned to a low growl in the speakers, vibrating the entire dash. I slammed the radio off. The hum didn't stop. It was inside the car now, like it was breathing with me. I flung the door open and stumbled out into the dark road. The forest on both sides looked endless. No sound, no wind, just the whispering static of the open night. I lifted the radio mic to my mouth. Whoever's doing this, stop. The reply came instantly. You can't clock out, Peanut. I froze. You never did. Lightning flashed across the distant sky, just enough to light the edges of the trees. For one heartbeat, I saw a shape standing among them. Silhouettes of people, not moving, just waiting. Then darkness again. The radio hissed louder now, cutting in and out. Phrases spitting through the static like broken transmissions. Officer down, time unknown, requesting backup. All units respond to Unit 5. Do you copy, copy, copy? It was like the air was full of ghosts. Every lost call, every forgotten frequency bleeding through. I clutched the mic so tight my knuckles cracked. "Mary, please, tell me what's happening." Her voice came through one last time, clear and cold. "It's your shift, Peanut. You're just working it again." "What shift?" "The one you never finished." And then the hum rose, so loud, I thought my head would split. The headlights flickered, engine coughed, and every sound collapsed into silence. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. The sun hung low behind gray clouds. My cruiser sat idling by the same old tree line on Route 19. The clock read 11:47 a.m. Same numbers, wrong time. The radio was dead quiet, but written across the dusty dashboard, traced in a single finger, were 3 words. "Stay on duty." I started the car, heart pounding, and drove until I hit town. But no matter how far I went, the odometer never changed. The road behind me never shrank. And when I glanced at the mirror, just once, I saw her sitting in the back seat. Mary, head tilted, headset on, smiling that soft, motherly smile. "You're doing fine, Peanut," she whispered. "Just keep driving. The calls are coming in." Then the radio clicked alive again, faint and calm. "Unit 5, report in. Long night ahead." And even though my hand was shaking, I said it anyway. Words that came too easy, too natural, like I've been saying them for years. "Unit 5, copy." The hum returned. The sky dimmed. The clock reset. 11:47 p.m. again. Shift starting. The call came in just after midnight. I was sitting in the cruiser behind the diner. Windows fogged, sipping coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The town was quiet again. Too quiet. In that stretched, empty way that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath. Then the radio clicked on. "Unit 5, respond to a domestic disturbance. 421 Maple Street. Call reports shouting inside the residence." I blinked. The voice was female, flat, distant, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "Repeat the address," I said, setting my cup down. 421 Maple Street. My chest tightened. That was my address. The radio hissed, then fell silent. I sat there a long time, listening to the wind crawl through the trees. It was ridiculous. I knew it was ridiculous. Probably a glitch, an echo from another county, or maybe some kind of prank bleeding through the band. But then the car's dash clock flicked from 12:01 to 11:47 p.m. again. That number, always that number. The hum began behind it, faint at first, like breathing through the static. And then came her voice, soft, patient, familiar. "You'd better go, Peanut. Someone's waiting at home." My mouth went dry. "Mary, you can't keep them waiting forever." Ooh. But the radio didn't answer. I started the engine. The streets were empty when I turned onto Maple. Every light on the block was out except one, my porch light. It flickered, casting long shadows across the driveway. For a moment, I just sat there, hands still on the wheel. The house looked wrong. Too dark, too still, like it was holding something inside. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped out, and closed the door quietly behind me. Gravel crunched under my boots. The air smelled like rain and dust and something faintly metallic, like old copper. The porch steps groaned when I climbed them. My hand hovered over the knob, heart hammering. "Dispatch," I said into mic, voice shaking. "This is Unit 5. I'm at the location, 421 Maple Street. Can you confirm the call?" Static. Then, faintly, "Copy that, Peanut. Proceed with caution." I froze. "Mary, what's going on?" But she didn't answer. So I opened the door. The living room was dark except for the flicker of the TV. Static spilling across the screen. My flashlight cut through the dim. Everything was just as I'd left it. Coat on the rack, shoes by the door, half-empty glass of water on the table. Except the air felt heavy, like the whole house was breathing slow, shallow breaths. Then I heard it, a voice, from the kitchen, low, muffled. I crept closer, boots silent on the hardwood. The sound grew clearer with each step, a soft murmur, like someone talking to themselves. When I reached the doorway, I stopped. There at the kitchen table sat a man, head down, elbows resting on the wood, a radio in his hand. And it was me, my throat closed. I could see the back of his uniform, the same faded shoulder patch, the same scuffed duty belt. He was breathing slow, steady, whispering into the mic. "Unit 5, he said, on scene. No signs of forced entry." My voice, the same tone, the same rhythm. I raised my flashlight, and as the beam hit him, he looked up, and I was staring into my own face. His eyes were dull, rimmed with shadow. He smiled just a little, sadly. "Took you long enough," he said. I stumbled back, hand tightening on my gun. "Who the hell are you?" He tilted his head. Radio still pressed his mouth. "You know who I am." "No," I whispered. "You're not." "Not what?" he said softly. "Not real? Not alive." He leaned forward, and the kitchen light flickered once. "You should sit down, Peanut." I froze. "Don't call me that." "Why not?" he said, smiling wider. "Mary always did." The hum started again, deep, throbbing, rising from the floorboards, from the walls. The radio in his hand began to hiss. "She said you never came back." I whispered. He nodded slowly. "That's right, you didn't." My flashlight flickered. The shadows on the walls began to move, stretching, bending like they were alive. "What do you mean I didn't?" He stood. The chair scraped against the tile, loud in the silence. "You went inside that house on Clearbrook Lane, remember? The one with the noise complaint. You walked through the door, and the air got real heavy. I don't remember that. Because you don't want to remember." He stepped closer. Our boots echoed the same way on the floor. "You knocked. No one answered. But you heard voices. So you went inside." I backed up, breath shaking. "Stop." He didn't. "You found a table," he continued softly, "and a radio. Still warm. You picked it up. You said, 'Unit 5 on scene.'" The hum grew louder, like the whole house was vibrating. And then, I asked weakly. He smiled that same sad smile. "Then you never left." My stomach turned. "No, I've been here the whole time. I've been working." He nodded. "Yeah, you've been working the same shift for years now. The calls never end. The roads never change. The clock never moves." I felt my legs trembling. "That's not true." He pointed to the wall. The old clock above the fridge read 11:47 p.m. I looked back, and he was gone. Only the radio sat on the table, hissing softly. I stared at it for a long time, then slowly reached for it. "Mary," I whispered. "You still there?" Her voice came through, calm and distant. "You made it home. What's happening to me?" "You're remembering." "Remembering what?" "The end of your shift." The lights flickered again. From the hallway came a faint creak. Footsteps. I turned, flashlight shaking. And there I was again, another me, standing at the far end of the hall, holding a radio, whispering into it. "Unit 5, he said softly, "on scene. No signs of forced entry." The world began to bend around me, the air thickening like water. My head rang with static. "Mary," I shouted. "Make it stop." Her voice filled the house, layered and endless. "It never stops, Peanut. The calls just keep coming." The figures in the hallway started to move. More me, stepping out of the shadows, one after another, all whispering the same thing into their radios. "Unit 5 on scene. Unit 5 on scene. Unit 5 on scene." Each one older, paler, more hollow-eyed than the last. The hum turned into a roar. I dropped to my knees, cover my ears. "Please." Then silence. When I looked up, there was only one me left, the one sitting at the table. He looked up slowly, eyes calm, almost kind. "It's your turn," he said. The radio in his hand buzzed softly. He slid it toward me. I stared at it, heart thudding, then slowly reached out. My fingers brushed the cold metal, and a voice came through the static. "Unit 5, respond to a domestic disturbance." 421 Maple Street. I swallowed hard. My hand closed around the mic. This is Unit 5, I said, unseen. No signs of forced entry. The clock ticked once. 11:47 p.m. Again, the other me smiled faintly, then faded like dust in the air. The radio hissed, then went quiet. Outside, dawn was breaking, soft gray light spilling through the window. I stood up, dizzy, heart pounding. I walked to the door, stepped onto the porch. The world looked empty. Still, the cruiser sat at the curb, engine idling, radio crackling softly. And from inside, my own voice called out, steady, calm routine. Unit 5, copy? Long night ahead. I stared at the car for a long time before whispering, yeah, copy that. Then I climbed in, shut the door, and turned onto Route 19. The clock on the dash blinked once. 11:47 p.m. The hum started up again, low and endless. The shift never ends. The sun hadn't even cleared the ridge when I got the call. A local farmer, out early to check his fences, said there was a patrol car sitting by the old communications tower on Ridge Road, engine running, headlights still on. Normally, that wouldn't raise an eyebrow, but we only had one night shift unit on duty last night, Unit 9. That was his call sign. I'd never met him, only heard the name floating around the department in quiet tones. Some of the older guys said he worked nights before I even joined, that he preferred the late hours, kept mostly to himself. Reliable, though, never missed a shift. But when I called dispatch to check his status, the line crackle was static. The dispatcher said she hadn't heard from him since 11:47 p.m. I told her I'd check it out. The tower sat about 5 miles outside town, an old rusted skeleton rising out of a field of weeds. Power had been cut years ago after a lightning strike fried the circuits. It was supposed to be sealed off, but locals still came out sometimes, looking for a view or a thrill. When I turned down the gravel road, I saw it right away. The cruiser parked crooked near the base of the tower. Headlights dim, engine idling low. I slowed, rolled to a stop behind it. The morning fog hung thick around the trees, muting every sound. Unit 9. I called over the radio. This is Deputy Miller. You copy. Static. I tried again. Unit 9, do you read? The response came faint, like someone whispering under their breath. Unit 9, still on shift. I froze. Repeat that. I said, Unit 9, still on shift. The voice was soft, genderless, slow, as if it was repeating something it had learned, not saying it fresh. I stepped out of the car. The air smelled like damp metal and ozone. The tower loomed above me, cables dangling like veins. The grass around the base was flattened in a perfect circle, as if something heavy had pressed down on it. Unit 9, I called again. You in there? The only reply was a faint hum of the idling engine. The driver's side door was open. The seat was empty. Coffee cup and holder. Hat on the dash. Radio mic hanging loose from its cord. But what caught my eye first was a clock on the dashboard. 11:47 p.m. Even though it was bright morning. I tapped the glass, but the numbers didn't move. The air inside the cruiser felt heavy, thick, like humidity, but colder. I leaned in and picked up the mic. This is Deputy Miller. I've located Unit 9's vehicle. No sign of. Static swallowed my words. And then a voice broke through, calm, quiet, and somehow familiar. Copy that, Peanut. I froze, staring at the radio. Who is this? You're late for your shift. I said identify yourself. But the voice didn't change. All units report to Ridge Tower. Long night ahead. The radio clicked off on its own. I stepped back, my heart racing. The tower seemed to hum now, low and deep, vibrating through the ground. The sound wasn't constant. It pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. I looked up, and for a moment, I could have sworn there were shapes moving inside the framework. Not climbing, not swaying, just standing there, halfway up, as if watching me. The breeze picked up, and with it came the faint sound of voices. Dozens of them, whispering just below hearing. I reached for my phone. No signal. Dispatch. I tried again. This is Deputy Miller. I need backup at Ridge Tower. Officer possibly missing. Do you copy? The reply came instantly. Copy that, Unit 9. You're on scene, correct? What? I said, no, this is Miller. Unit 9 is missing. Negative, the voice said. You're Unit 9. You're on scene. I stared at the radio. I'm not. But before I could finish, the headlights flickered. The hum grew louder. I backed away from the cruiser, eyes fixed on the tower, and that's when I saw him. A man standing at the base of the stairs, uniformed. Still, I raised my flashlight. Hey! Sheriff's Department. Stop right there. He didn't move. The beam caught his badge. Unit 9. Sir, you need to identify yourself. He lifted his hand slowly, pointing past me toward the cruiser. I turned. The driver's door had closed. The headlights were bright again. The radio hissed. Unit 9, you're still on shift. When I looked back, the man was gone. I should have left right then. I knew that. Every instinct told me to get in my car. Call for help, drive until I saw people again. But I couldn't move. My legs felt rooted to the ground, like the hum had settled into my bones. Then my radio clicked again. We have a domestic disturbance. For 21 Maple Street. I froze. That was his address. The one from the old files. The address of the deputy, who'd gone missing 10 years ago. I whispered, No, that can't be right. The radio crackled, the same soft voice bleeding through. Unit 9, respond. I'm not. You're on shift. The hum rose, turning into something else, a distorted echo that almost sounded like breathing. I stumbled backward until I hit the cruiser's fender. My flashlight flickered. Through the windshield, the passenger seat looked different now. There was something lying there, a notebook. I reached in and grabbed it. The cover was leather, cracked with age. Inside were pages of neat handwriting, log entries. Unit 9, night shift reports. The first few looked normal. Traffic stops, calls, timestamps. But the dates were wrong. Each one ended the same way. Shift ended 11:47 p.m. Page after page. Same ending. And then near the back, one last line written in shaky letters. Shift never ends. I dropped the book. The radio came alive again, louder now. Voices overlapping, distorted. Unit 5, respond. Unit 9, you're still on shift. Copy that. Peanut. For 21 Maple Street. Don't clock out. Each phrase layered over the next, faster, louder, until the air itself seemed to vibrate. Then silence. And in that silence, just a faint whisper, so close it felt like it came from right beside my ear. Long night ahead. The radio light blinked once, twice, then went out. When backup arrived an hour later, they found my cruiser parked beside Unit 9's. Engine idling. My body was gone. The logs at the radios in both cars were still active, looping through fragments of old transmissions. Voices from different years, different deputies, all bleeding into one another. They towed the vehicles back to the station, cleaned them, tested them, said the frequencies were corrupted by weather, maybe a solar flare. But sometimes, when a night shift rolls around and the dispatcher keys the mic, there's a voice that answers before anyone else can. Calm. Slow. Unit 9, copy that. On scene. No signs of forced entry. And if you stay long enough, listening through the static, you'll hear it whisper once more. Almost kind, almost human. You're still on shift. It started with phone calls. Not emergencies. Not real ones. Just quiet voices reporting strange lights out near the cemetery road. The first came on a Tuesday night, close to midnight. Old Mrs. Lathrop called in. Said she'd seen something floating over the grave behind her house. She said they looked like lanterns, but brighter, drifting slow, low to the ground. I told her it was probably kids. We get a lot of that this time of year. Bored teenagers with drones, flashing lights, or cheap fireworks. She didn't sound convinced. No, Sheriff, she said, voice trembling. They weren't flying normal. They were looking. That word stuck with me. Still, I wrote it off. Promised we'd send a car by. Hung up and went back to my paperwork. But then the next night, 3 more calls came in. Different people. Same description. Glowing orbs drifting along Cemetery Road, just above the ground. They moved in slow lines, almost like patrol. I drove out there myself. Nothing. Just the wind and the crunch of gravel under my tires. The cemetery sat about 2 miles outside town, near the old bridge that used to flood every spring. Nobody went there much anymore. The fence leaned, half the headstones tilted, and the grass grew up to my knees. Still, something about the place always made me uneasy. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the smell of the soil after it rained. Wet, heavy, old, like the ground was holding its breath. By Thursday, it wasn't just locals calling. A trucker on the night route said he'd seen a whole row of lights trailing his rig for nearly a mile before they vanished. A woman driving home from church claimed one followed her to her driveway and hovered over her car until she shut off the headlights. It was getting ridiculous. I sat at my desk that night, rubbing my temples, listening to the dispatcher take yet another report. Same spot. I asked. She nodded. Cemetery Road again. I sighed. All right, guess I'll go have a look. The drive out there was quiet. The kind of quiet that presses against you, like static in the air. The radio crackled once, then went dead. That stretch always messed with the signal. As I turned onto the dirt road, my headlights caught the edge of the cemetery fence. The white paint had peeled off years ago, leaving it gray and skeletal in the beam. The trees around it looked like they were leaning in. I slowed the cruiser, window down. For a while, there was nothing, just the hum of the engine and the buzz of insects. Then, faintly light, a soft glow near the far end of the fence. Pale yellow at first, then shifting to white. I killed the engine. The light floated upward, about shoulder height, then drifted left. Slow, deliberate, like it was searching. Another one appeared beside it. Then another. I watched, heart beating slow but heavy. They weren't flickering like drone lights or flashlights. They moved smooth, gliding in perfect rhythm. Silent, weightless. One drifted close enough that I could see the way it pulsed, like a breath. The glow faded inward, then swelled again, almost as if it had a heartbeat. I whispered, "What the hell?" And then, as if it heard me, it stopped. The light hung there, perfectly still. Then it started to move. Toward me. I stepped out of the car, one hand on my flashlight. The grass was wet beneath my boots. "Who's out there?" I called. "You kids think this is funny?" No answer. The orb floated closer, crossing the fence like the metal wasn't even there. It hovered 10 feet away, lighting up the stones around it. I saw the names carved into them. Most were too worn to read. But one stood out clear, Lathrop, the old woman who'd made the first call. I felt my stomach twist. No way. I muttered. The light pulsed again once, twice, and then another rose behind it, smaller, dimmer, as if responding. A breeze moved through the grass. Cold. Heavy. I took a step back toward the cruiser, trying to keep my voice steady. "You hear me? Whoever's doing this, you better stop now." The first light came closer. I could feel heat coming off it, soft, like standing near a candle flame. I lifted my flashlight, but the beam died instantly, just blinked out. The glow from the orb reflected off the cruiser's hood, bright enough to make my eyes water. I turned to get back inside, but froze. There was a reflection in the windshield, a figure, faint, sitting in the driver's seat. Me, except I hadn't gotten in yet. The reflection turned its head and smiled. My body went cold. When I spun back around, the light surged forward, fast, straight toward me, and before I could react, it passed through the windshield and hit me square in the chest. Everything went white. For a moment, I thought I'd been hit by lightning. My whole body locked, every muscle clenched. Then came the whispering. At first, it sounded like wind. Then words began to form, thin, fragile, sliding under my skin. Names. I didn't know how, but I could hear them, dozens of them, echoing in my head. Some I recognized immediately. people from town, others I hadn't heard in years. And then one name cut through them all. My own. I fell to my knees, gasping. The air felt thick, like I was breathing underwater. When I looked up, the lights were gone. The only glow came from the cruiser's headlights, still dim and flickering. The radio crackled. Unit 9, a voice said softly, "You still there?" I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The voice came again. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it." Then the static faded. I drove back to town in silence, one hand pressed against my chest, feeling the faint warmth that still lingered beneath my shirt. Every streetlight flickered as I passed. Every shadow seemed to lean closer. When I finally got home, I sat in the driveway for a long time, watching my own reflection in the windshield. My face looked pale, wrong. The hum of the engine sounded off, like there was another voice in it, too faint to make out. I turned off the ignition. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive, and underneath it, faint as a breath, I could still hear the whispering. Names. Always names. Some I knew, some I'd meet soon. I got the call just after 11:30 p.m. Dispatch said it was another noise complaint out on County Line Road. Now, that's not unusual in itself. We get all kinds of late-night calls in this county. Coyotes howling, drunks shooting off fireworks, kids trying to scare each other. But this one was different. It came from the same address that had been logged 12 times in one night, and every single entry listed me as a responding officer. Thing is, I hadn't been out there. Not once. When I asked dispatch about it, they brushed it off as a system glitch. Said the computer might have duplicated an old report. But there was something in the dispatcher's voice, hesitation, maybe, like she didn't quite believe it either. The house belonged to a woman named Margaret Keene. Widow, lived alone after her husband passed a few years back. No priors, no trouble. Just the kind of quiet, tucked away property you forget exists until the weeds swallow the mailbox. So I grabbed my keys, logged my route, and headed out. County Line Road runs straight through the middle of nowhere. No streetlights, no neighbors for a mile in either direction. Just long stretches of cornfields and those old windbreak trees that look like they're trying to claw the sky open. The further I drove, the quieter everything got. Even the engine sounded like it was holding its breath. When I finally saw the house, it looked smaller than I remember from the last time I'd been out that way. Maybe 5 years ago. A tired old farmhouse, 2 stories tall, paint peeling off in wide flakes. The porch light flickered weakly, giving the whole place a heartbeat. I parked on the shoulder and radioed in. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I'm on scene at the Keene property." Static. "Repeat, this is Unit 7. More static. Then, faintly, like someone whispering through water, Unit 7 acknowledged. Proceed with welfare check. The voice didn't sound like our dispatcher. Too slow, too soft. But I didn't think much of it. The tower coverage was terrible out here. I stepped out of the cruiser, flashlight in hand. The air was still, thick, like a storm was thinking about starting, but hadn't made up its mind. The front door stood halfway open, creaking slightly in the wind. That was my first red flag. I called out as I stepped onto the porch. "Sheriff's Department. Anyone home?" Nothing. Just the echo of my own voice bouncing through the hollow rooms. The inside smelled like dust and something sweet, like old flowers left too long in a vase. Furniture was covered in sheets, floorboards warped from years of moisture. Everything looked untouched, frozen in time. And yet there was heat in the air, fresh footprints in the dust near the stairs. Someone had been here, or still was. I called out again, moving to the living room, shining my light across framed photos on the wall. They were all black and white portraits, farmers, kids, old couples, faces so faded you could barely make them out. Then my radio crackled again. "Unit 7, status check." I pressed the mic, still clear in the house. No sign of occupants. "Copy that," the voice said. "Log time is 23:36. My watch read 23:36. Exact to the second. I checked the kitchen next. The table was set for plates, silverware neatly arranged, candles burned halfway down. The food looked fresh. Steam even rose off on the bowls, like it had been served minutes ago. I leaned closer. It smelled like stew. Beef potatoes time. Still warm. That's when I heard the floorboard creak behind me. I turned, light cutting across the dark hall. Nothing there. But the front door I left halfway open, was now shut. I could hear the latch click. I stared at it for a long time, feeling my heartbeat in my ears. Then I took a step closer. The knob was cold. When I opened it, the porch light flickered once and went out. Pitch black. I shut again, quick, locking out of instinct. Then the radio hissed. Unit 7. Confirm resident secure. I swallowed. Yeah. Doors closed. House is quiet. Static filled the speaker for a full 10 seconds before the voice came back. Quieter this time. Negative, Unit 7. You are not on scene. I froze. Say again. Records show you clear location at 2212. All further checks listed as duplicates. My flashlight trembled in my hand. What are you talking about? I'm standing inside right now. Static. Then copy that. Marking current report as duplicate number 13. The channel went dead. For a moment, I thought about leaving. Just walking out, getting in the cruiser, and pretending this whole thing was some kind of data glitch. But something about that number, 13, made my stomach twist. If the system was right, I'd been here 12 times tonight. Doing what? I tried calling again, but the radio just hummed softly, like it was thinking. I checked my body cam, dead battery. My phone too. The screen wouldn't even light up. That's when I noticed the door again. It was open, not wide, but enough that a strip of moonlight stretched across the floor like a blade. I could have sworn I'd locked it. I shut it again, harder this time, testing the latch. It held. Then something brushed my shoulder, light, like the air itself had moved. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I didn't. Instead, I turned toward the stairs. At the top, a shadow moved, quick, slipping from one doorway to another. I raised my light. Sheriff's Department. Come out where I can see you. No sound, just that soft creak again, like someone shifting their weight on the old wood. I climbed, each step groaning beneath my boots. The hallway at the top was narrow, lined with more framed photos. I caught a glimpse of one, me, standing beside a woman and a little boy. My throat went dry. I don't have a family. Never have. But the date under the photo said June 2028. 3 years from now. The boy in the picture had my eyes. And the house in the background. It was this one. Something moved behind me. I turned, flashlight cutting through the darkness. But there was no one there. Only the open front door again, visible from the top of the stairs. It swung gently back and forth, the wind outside moaning through the cracks. I started back down, slow, careful. Every step echoed like it was being answered. When I reached the bottom, I closed the door one last time. Hard. The sound of the latch echoed through the empty house. Then, a second later, it opened again. No sound of wind, no shifting air, just a click and the quiet, careful swing of hinges, like someone on the other side was waiting for me to notice. My radio came alive again. Unit 7, status check. The voice was closer this time. Too close. I didn't answer. Do you see the door? I looked at the door. You keep closing it, the voice said, but you never leave. Then the static cut out, and all that was left was the slow creak of the door moving back open. When I stepped outside, the air felt wrong. The sky was the same, the road the same, but the cruiser headlights were off, the engine cold. I looked at my wristwatch. 23:36. Same as before. Time hadn't moved. I don't remember getting back in the car, but I must have, because when I blinked, I was staring at the dashboard again. The radio humming softly. The dispatcher's voice drifted through. Unit 7 welfare check complete. Marked duplicate 14. And before I could speak, the headlights flicked on by themselves, pointing straight at the house. The front door was open again, and in the doorway, something was standing there. Just standing, watching. waiting for me to come back inside. You spend enough nights alone in a patrol car, and the radio starts to feel like your only friend. That steady hum of static. The crackle when dispatch calls your number. It's the heartbeat of the night shift. The thing that reminds you you're not completely alone out there. But lately it hasn't felt that way. I've been a sergeant for 15 years, and I know every voice that comes through our frequency. Every cough, every nervous laugh, every little pause in speech. You learn people that way. The night teaches you to listen. But a few weeks ago, I started hearing someone else on the line. Someone I didn't recognize. The first time it happened, I was parked on Old Mill Road, lights off, watching for speeders. Quiet night. The kind of silence that hums in your teeth. Dispatch called me. Routine stuff. Unit 12, status check. I press the mic. Unit 12, all clear. That's when I heard it. A faint echo, maybe 2 seconds later. Unit 12, all clear. Same tone, same pacing. My voice. But it didn't come from the radio speaker. It came from deeper inside the static. Like someone was repeating it just out of range. I froze, turned the volume down. Static went quiet. Then, right before I switched frequencies, it whispered again, soft, distant, almost lazy. Unit 12, all clear. I sat there for a long time, staring at the mic. At first, I thought maybe the repeater tower was glitching. It happens sometimes when weather messes with the signal, but there was no storm that night. The air was clear, still, and it wasn't just the words, it was how they felt, like whoever, or whatever, was repeating them was listening too closely. I didn't tell dispatch. What was I supposed to say? Hey, someone's copying me on the ghost channel. They'd laugh, or worse, start a report. So I kept quiet. But then it started happening again. The second night, it was around 2:15 a.m. I was driving down County 9, windows cracked. That's a dead zone for most frequencies, so you don't get much chatter. Out of habit, I called in a quick location check. Unit 12, passing mile marker 82. Silence for 2 seconds. Then, Unit 12, passing mile marker 82. Exactly the same words. The voice wasn't distorted this time. It sounded clearer, like someone was sitting right beside me, using another radio on the same channel. I pulled over. My first thought was that some rookie was messing with me, bouncing my signal. But when I switched channels to private dispatch, the voice followed. Always a 2-second delay. Always the same phrase. When I stopped talking, it went quiet, until I whispered, just to test it, "Who is this?" Nothing. Then, a few seconds later, "Who is this?" That's when my stomach dropped, because this time, the voice didn't sound like me anymore. It sounded older, rougher, like me, but years from now. By the third night, I started keeping the radio volume low, just enough to hear dispatch. I didn't want to hear that echo again, but I did, every night that week. Sometimes it would mimic full sentences. Other times, it just breathed softly between transmissions, like it was waiting for me to say something. The worst part? It started finishing my sentences. Unit 12, responding to possible disturbance on Elm. That one froze me up completely, because there hadn't been any call on Elm Street. Not yet, but 2 minutes later, dispatch radioed in a 10 to 16 domestic disturbance. Elm Street. That's when I started recording my shifts. I told myself it was for evidence, proof that the system was glitching. But deep down, I knew I was just trying to convince myself I wasn't losing it. Night after night, I drive the same roads, check the same parking lots, make the same reports. And always, that second voice would come through. Sometimes it repeated me perfectly. Sometimes it changed small things. Unit 12, clear of traffic stop. Unit 12, not clear of traffic stop. Or, Unit 12 on break. Unit 12, stay awake. That one made my blood go cold. I started sleeping less. I'd wake up to phantom static in my ears, reaching for the mic even when I wasn't wearing it. People at the station noticed. One of the deputies joked that I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I just laughed it off, but the truth was, I felt like one. There's something about night shifts. They blur the edges between things. Reality thins out. You start to wonder if the world you patrol is the same one you started in. And when the only voice that answers you back sounds like your own, you start to wonder which side of the mic you're really on. 2 nights ago, it got worse. I was parked behind the diner, drinking stale coffee, half asleep in the driver's seat. Dispatch called in a suspicious vehicle near Route 11, so I keyed the mic. Unit 12, copy that, en route. The echo came right on cue, but this time it didn't repeat the sentence. It said, "Don't go there." My fingers went numb. I stared at the mic, waiting, thinking maybe I'd misheard. Then, clear as day, "You're not supposed to be here yet." Before I could respond, the radio crackled violently, loud enough to make me flinch, and the signal went dead. Static. I waited for dispatch to call back, but nothing came through for almost a full minute. Then my own voice. "Unit 12, on scene at Route 11. I hadn't even started the engine. When I did get there, Route 11 was empty. No car, no caller, just miles of dark road stretching into nowhere. But the air felt charged, like after a lightning strike. And the radio, silent the whole drive, suddenly whispered again. "You'll understand soon." The words were low, not mocking, not angry, just tired. Then it repeated my name, slowly, like testing it out loud. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared into the dark and listened to my own voice fade away into static. Back at the station, I played the night's recording. Every call, every transmission, it was clean. No echo, no second voice. But at the very end, just as I was about to shut it off, I heard breathing, slow, deep, and then a whisper that wasn't mine. "I'll take this shift from here." That was 3 nights ago. Since then, I've kept the radio off as much as I can. But sometimes, even when it's powered down, I swear I can still hear it, just faintly, under the hum of the cruiser, under my own heartbeat. "Unit 12, it says, you still there?" You don't really notice when your last night begins. Not when it's supposed to be your last shift. At least, I remember thinking it'd be simple. A quiet sign-off, a handshake or two, maybe a cup of bad coffee before I turned in my badge for good. 40 years in uniform. That's what it said on the plaque they gave me. 40 years of small-town nights, of barking dogs, busted taillights, drunk calls, and the same old faces pretending they didn't know me. I thought I'd seen everything that could happen in a town like ours. But that night, the town decided to show me something different. Something I still can't explain. It started a little after 10. I was parked near the courthouse. Windows cracked. The same old country song humming through static on the radio. That's when the lights started going out. At first, I thought it was just a power surge. The courthouse lights flickered once, twice, then went dark. A second later, Main Street followed, street lamps dying one by one, like someone walking down the line flipping a switch. Then the houses, porch lights, storefront signs. Each one blinked out in sequence until the whole block was swallowed up by darkness. I remember the sound that followed. Not silence, but something thicker, heavier, like the air had turned solid and was pressing it on everything at once. I tried calling dispatch, but the radio only hissed. I switched channels, nothing. Even the hum of static was quieter, like it was getting pulled away. I stepped out of the cruiser. The sky looked wrong. There were stars, too many brighter than they should have been, but no moon. The clouds hung too low, too still, as if someone had frozen them in place. I walked to the middle of the street, hand on my flashlight. The beam barely cut through the dark, just stopped about 10 feet out, like it was hitting a wall. The only sound left was my own breathing. Then, way off in the distance, I heard a door slam, hard. I turned toward it, waiting for the echo, but there wasn't one. The sound just stopped. After 40 years of this job, you learn not to overthink strange nights. You just move. You keep routine. So I got back in the car and logged the call. Power outage, unknown cause. My handwriting looked strange in the dim dash light, shaking slightly. I tried the engine. It started fine, but the headlights wouldn't come on. neither with the radio or the computer or even the clock. Everything that ran on power had died, except the car itself. I sat there for a moment, listening to the low idle, and somewhere under that sound, just faint enough to make me question it, I thought I heard whispering, not words, just rhythm, like something talking from underwater. I pulled out onto Main, driving slow. The tires whispered over the asphalt. The windows fogged slightly from the cold. The whole town looked like it was holding its breath. Not abandoned, just paused. I passed the diner, the library, the little gas station where the clerk always waved at me. Every building looked the same as it always had, except dimmer somehow, colors gone, like the life had been drained out of it. Halfway down the block, my headlights flickered on by themselves, and there was someone standing in the road. I hit the brakes hard. The light caught a figure about 50 feet ahead, uniformed, tall, wearing a hat just like mine. For a moment, I thought it was another deputy, maybe Miller, though he was supposed to be off duty. But when I called out, the figure didn't move, didn't even flinch. It just stood there, head tilted slightly toward me. Then I saw the badge, and it was mine. I don't remember stepping out of the car. 1 second I was sitting there, and the next I was standing in the middle of the road, staring at that figure. He looked like me, same jacket, same boots, same stance, but older, or maybe worn. The face wasn't clear, like it was caught between shadows and light. I said, "You need help?" The figure didn't answer. Then, after what felt like a full minute, he raised his hand, slowly, and pointed toward the station. Then he turned and started walking that way. Every part of me told me not to follow. But that job, 40 years of training, had burned the habit into me. You see something, you check it out. You don't question until after. So I followed him. The road stretched longer than it should have. Street after street, repeating the same buildings, the same cracked sidewalk, the same bent stop sign. Every time I blinked, the distance between me and the figure shifted, sometimes closer, sometimes farther, and then, suddenly, he was gone, just gone, like I'd blinked and erased him. I stopped in front of the station. The windows were dark, but I could see my own reflection in the glass. At least, I thought it was mine, until it smiled. I took a step back. The smile faded, but the reflection stayed. It didn't move when I did. Then the door creaked open. The faint smell of coffee drifted out, fresh coffee. Inside, the lights were still on, but everything looked off. The photos on the wall showed different faces. The call logs on the desk had dates from 20 years ago, and there, sitting in my old chair, was a man in uniform. My uniform. Me. He looked up, calm, like he'd been expecting me. "You made it," he said. His voice was mine too, only lower, slower. I wanted to say something, to ask what was happening, but the words wouldn't come out. He smiled again and pointed to the radio on the desk. It was still working, still crackling softly. Then I heard Dispatch's voice. Familiar, but not right. "Unit 12, she said. "Do you copy?" I swallowed hard, pressed the mic out of reflex. "Unit 12, go ahead." "Final report," she said. I stared at the radio, confused. "Say again." "Final report," the voice repeated. "Clocking you out." Then the line went dead. When I looked up, the man in the chair was gone, but his coffee was still steaming. I stared down at the desk, and there was a file sitting there, my name on it. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Date, December 12th, 1993. Status, deceased on duty. Cause, unknown. The cup hit the floor before I realized I dropped it. I looked back at the radio. It crackled once. Then, in a voice that wasn't quite mine anymore, it said, "You stayed too long, Sheriff." The lights flickered once, and then, one by one, the town started fading again, street by street, building by building, until it was just me, standing in the dark, still on duty, still waiting for morning. I drove for hours, though the clock on the dash never moved past 11:47 p.m. The town was gone quiet, too quiet. Even the hum of the streetlights had faded. Just me, the cruiser, and the dark. I called dispatch again. Unit 1, you copy? Nothing. Just static. Then, after a long pause, a voice crackled through, low, distant. Unit 1, this is dispatch. What's your 20? It wasn't Linda. Linda had retired 30 years ago. But I'd know that voice anywhere. The same tone she used to use back when I was a rookie, before her hand started shaking, before she moved out of Arizona. This is Sheriff Dale. I said, who is this? Static again. Then faint laughter. You're still out there, huh? Something about the way she said it, like she knew, like she'd been expecting me. The radio hissed. Another voice broke through. My voice. Younger. Dispatch. I've got a 10 to 54 by the train yard. Looks fresh. My blood ran cold. That was me. I remember that call. It was 1989. A hit and run. I'd found the body, filed a report, buried the memory. Now I was hearing it live, in real time. I looked out the window. The train yard wasn't far. I didn't want to go, but I turned anyway. The roads felt wrong. Every turn led back to Main Street. The lights from the diner flickered in the distance, but the windows were black. No cars. No signs of life. I pulled up by the old tracks, and there he was, a man lying in the dirt, face down, limbs twisted, same as before. But this time, when I stepped closer, he turned his head, and I saw myself, younger, cleaner uniform, still wearing that rookie badge. He stared at me, eyes wide, lips trembling. Sheriff, I stumbled back, hand on my holster. What the hell is this? He stood up slowly, brushing the dirt off. His movements were shaky, confused, like someone waking up from a dream. You're not supposed to be here, he said. You finished this shift a long time ago. Then he looked past me, the town, the road, the sky, and whispered, but you didn't leave. I turned around. The horizon shimmered, like heat on asphalt. The world flickered, then froze. Every sound cut out. No wind, no crickets, no distant hum of power lines. Just me and him. I remember this night. I said quietly, you called for backup. I came out here. He nodded. You did. But no one came for you, did they? Before I could answer, the radio crackled again. Unit 1, confirm your location, Linda's voice said. You're not showing on the map. I looked at the younger me, but he was gone. Just the tracks, the body, the dark. I grabbed the radio. Dispatch, I'm at the train yard. I think I've got a duplicate signal. Copy, she said softly. That's not a duplicate, Dale. That's a recording. I froze. A recording of what? Your last call. The lights in the distance flickered again, then went out one by one, like the town was folding into itself block by block. The hum of my cruiser's engine grew deeper, distorted, like it was underwater. I looked down at my hands. The radio was still pressed to my mouth, the mic button still held down, and through the static, I heard it again, my own voice, still patrolling. Roads clear, towns quiet. A recording of me. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the sirens, but they were moving in circles, never getting closer. I don't know how long I've been driving. Maybe a night, maybe a lifetime. The cruiser's fuel gauge never moves. The sky never changes. Always that same dim navy blue before dawn, like the sun's waiting for permission. I've stopped trying to call dispatch. The radio only plays one thing now, me. Old patrol log, half-finished sentences, reports I never wrote. Sometimes it's my voice from years ago. Sometimes it's what I sound like now. And sometimes it's neither. The voice says things I never said. It talks about people who don't exist. Tells me roads to take that lead to nowhere. I tried parking outside my old house. It's still there, perfect, untouched. Porch light glowing. Curtains drawn. Through the window, I could see silhouettes at the dinner table. A man, a woman, a little boy, laughing, talking, eating. For a moment, I thought, no. I knew that was me, my wife, my son, Only problem was I never had a family. I got out of the car, took a step toward the porch, and then I heard it. A faint whisper under the wind. "Get back in the car, Sheriff." I turned. No one was there, but the voice didn't come from outside. It came from a radio still clipped to my shoulder. I unhooked it slowly, stared at it like it might bite. The mic crackled. "You've done your job. Let it go." "I want to go home," I whispered. "This is home." The porch light flickered, dimmed, then went out completely. When it came back on, the silhouettes were gone. Just an empty table. Plate set for 3. I got back in the car. I didn't start it. Just sat there, breathing. That's when I noticed a reflection in the windshield. Behind me, someone was sitting in the back seat. I turned around slowly, but the seat was empty. Still, I could feel the warmth like someone had just been there. "Dispatch," I said softly. "You still there?" A pause. Then, always, the voice sounded old now, weak, like mine. "What is this?" I asked, "Am I dead?" "No," she said. "You stayed." I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Stayed where? On duty. The world outside the car began to dim again. The edges of the town faded into shadow. Even the stars above flickered out one by one, like dying bulbs. I drove. I don't know where to. The road just stretched endlessly ahead, curving and folding into itself. Somewhere, I think I passed another cruiser, mine years ago. I saw my younger self at the wheel, eyes wide, radio in hand. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did. The radio whispered one last time. "Unit 1, status check." I didn't answer, because I finally understood. This wasn't hell. It wasn't a curse. It was duty. The night never ended because I never let it. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being the sheriff of a town and became the sheriff of the night itself. Now I just keep driving. Roads that don't end, lights that never rise, a world that hums like it's half asleep. And sometimes when the radio flares back to life, I hear new voices, new deputies, new calls, all of them asking the same question. "Dispatch, anyone copy?" And I always answer. "Unit 1 here. Roads are clear. Town's quiet." Because it is. It always will be, as long as I stay.